Welcome to Making a Difference, AV Pride's TV series on underage drinking. I'm Kylie Reed, and here with me today I have Corinne New. Miss New, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. We're going to be talking about sexual assault as it relates to alcohol consumption. We'll be right back after this break.
Did you know underage drinking increases the risk of carrying out or being a victim of sexual assault? Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Mom, why are you drinking so much?
I'm the grown-up. I can do what I want.
No, I hate you!
Every year, over 900,000 children are abused by alcoholic parents. More than 10 million people ages 12 to 20 confessed to underage drinking in 2012. Annually, more than 1.3 million women are sexually taken advantage of while intoxicated. Drinking has consequences that affect more than just you. Next time, think about it.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
Welcome back to Making a Difference. Miss New, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I grew up in Carroll County, Georgia. Graduated from high school there. I went to college in Warren Wilson, right outside of Asheville. And I went to graduate school at the University of New Mexico. And in between all of that time, I did a lot of traveling. I've been to Guyana, India, Nepal, and Israel.
Wow.
So I enjoy that. I also really like sports.
That's great. That's great. Why did you decide to work in this field?
When I was in graduate school, one of my projects was a rural health issue, and I chose sexual assault because I didn't know much about it. Okay. And through my research, I found that it was a huge problem, not only in rural areas, but any area.
Right.
And there weren't that many services to address it, and so I decided that was something I was interested in.
Very good, very good. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your experiences with sexual assault victims?
Sure. I have worked with victims for about 9 years. I've been at the Sexual Assault Center. And now I'm the Director of Education and Prevention, but I did do work with victims when I first started.
Okay.
There's all ages, all races, all classes of victims, so no one is immune.
Right.
And when it comes to alcohol consumption, it does make you more at risk to be a victim, but equally as important, it also makes you more at risk to be a perpetrator. So a lot of people who do commit rape are under the influence as well.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a lot of times when you drink, obviously your decision-making skills may be weaker than normal, and so a lot of times people feel maybe they're intoxicated, so it's an excuse. Well, I was drunk, so I'm not responsible for my actions.
Right, right.
And of course we don't accept that in other crimes, drinking and driving, breaking and entering. No other crime would we say, well, you're drunk, it was okay.
Exactly, exactly. What is your take on the blame game? Whose fault is it if both the boy and the girl were both intoxicated?
Okay, in a situation like that, the responsibility falls to the person who would have more power and control in the situation. So
which would be the male.
Normally that's the male, just physically. And so it's very important for boys and men to be educated how to take cues, because sometimes a person might not fight you because they're intimidated to fight. So consent is a person saying yes,
right,
and that's it. So just because they didn't say no, that does not mean yes.
And that's usually most guys' excuses. They didn't say no, right?
Exactly. And so people really need to talk to their kids about it, and people need to understand that consent is being fully aware of your actions. So if a girl, if anyone is intoxicated, they really can't consent anyway. So this social norm of getting girls drunk to sleep with them, that's rape by definition. So it's really important people understand that.
What should the victim of sexual assault expect after being assaulted? Are there post-traumatic experiences afterwards?
A lot of times there are. There's no right or wrong way to be a victim. A lot of people think, well, they didn't respond this way. She's not upset enough. She's not crying. It must not be true. She's too emotional. She's crying. it must not be true. So there's no right way to respond, and everybody needs to be aware of that if they're a victim or if they're a friend or a family member. But oftentimes our victims have nightmares, their eating may be disrupted, their sleeping may be disrupted, they may not want to go out in public if this happens somewhere else. And a lot of times people are victimized in their own home, so they don't even feel comfortable there. So there are definitely signs and symptoms of a sexual assault victim, but not everyone responds the same way.
Now, even if the victim didn't even know the assaulter that well, are there trust issues for the victim?
That's quite common, of course. You never know who's at risk and who's going to be posing a risk to you. Most sexual assaults, however, occur between people who know each other. The vast majority, almost all of them. Stranger rapes are very unusual, and people get together at a party, drink more, let me get a drink. Those should be red flags. That if a person is that interested in you drinking, you should wonder why.
What if the male was not drunk, but the female was?
Then that's rape, no question.
Right.
Because she cannot give her consent. And so a lot of times, that's what I'm saying, a lot of times this is calculated. People think, well, it was something that was just happened, or it couldn't be controlled. And a lot of times that's not true at all. It's well thought out. We're going to have a party, we're going to have alcohol, we're going to invite these girls, we're having sex with them.
I think what I mean to say is, what if the girl is drunk and so she says yes, she does consent, but she's intoxicated? Legally,
she can't consent if she's intoxicated. It's the same thing as being underage, for example. 16 is the age of consent. So if a 15-year-old says yes, that's not legal consent. You have to be 16. So if you're under the influence of alcohol, it's like that. You cannot give your consent because you cannot make that decision.
Right, right. Okay. What can we do as a community to raise the awareness of sexual assault as it relates to alcohol?
That's a good question. Community involvement is very important. We put a lot of issues just on the individual, but that's not how we solve problems. Right. So we do need to educate ourselves as the individual, and then it needs to expand to our friends and our family. These are conversations we need to have with each other openly and honestly, and that will help, and then it automatically brings the community in to take responsibility. So for example, if you have an underage party, how did they get the alcohol? There was some bystander involved somewhere that either bought it or sold it. Someone's letting those kids use their home. All of these people are kind of facilitating alcohol-facilitated rape, and they don't even realize it.
What about college parties? They can get their own alcohol.
They can, and a lot of times a 21-year-old, they may be hosting the party, and then be careful because you have to ask yourself again, why are they asking all the freshman girls to the party? Normally, you really have to question that. And drinking is not illegal if you're 21 and over. So women have just as much of a right to drink as men do. It's no invitation for rape.
I agree. I agree. Who do you turn to after being assaulted?
You can always report it to law enforcement, and that's encouraged because a lot of people who display this type of behavior, they've done it before and or will do it again. So it's important to report it. You can reach out to your local rape crisis center, and most counties in Georgia have somebody who serves them. But if not, there's also an organization on the state level. And they can at least help you with counseling. A lot of victims, they don't get help at first. They may call 5 years later. I'm ready to deal with this now. So counseling is very important for that person.
Will people still help even if they were the ones who were drinking?
Sure. If you were to call the Rape Crisis Center, for example, or call our agency, our entire job is to believe the victim, support the victim, and help them. It's irrelevant to us if you were drunk underage. It's irrelevant to us if you were using drugs. It's irrelevant to us if you were working as a prostitute. It doesn't mean rape didn't happen. So that's our job. I don't have a percentage of how many people don't report it because of that, but we do know most sexual assaults aren't reported under any condition. So it would make sense and stand to reason that people who were under the influence of anything wouldn't report. But certainly, please do anyway. We will believe you, we will support you, and we won't make that judgment.
What can our viewers do to help support their loved ones who might have been sexually assaulted?
That's a good question. The most important thing you can do is to believe the victim. A lot of times people will disclose to a friend or a family member, but based on their negative response, they never report it to law enforcement or get help for themselves.
Right.
And both of those things are very important. So be as calm as you can and non-judgmental as you can. You don't want to ask questions like, why did you do this? Why were you drinking? Did you go to his room? Did you get in the car?
Right.
All of those things are irrelevant.
Right. Thank you so much, Ms. New. That was wonderful.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Of course.
Did you know alcohol is by far the most commonly used drug during sexual assaults? Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Glass and steel flew everywhere. My whole body seemed to be turning inside out. I heard myself scream!
17% of binge drinkers are teenagers. Drinking kills dreams.
Suddenly, I was awakened. It was very quiet. A police officer was standing over me. My body was mangled. I was saturated in blood. Pieces of glass were sticking out all over.
Nearly 72% of students have consumed alcohol by the end of high school, and 37% by 8th grade. Drinking kills dreams.
Strange that I couldn't feel anything. Hey, don't pull that sheet over my head. I can't be dead. I'm only 17.
Young people who drink are more likely to be involved in self-destructive behaviors. Drinking kills dreams.
I'm waiting for you.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
Did you know 89% of female sexual assault victims who were passed out at a party reported drinking alcohol before their victimization? Think, don't drink.
Welcome back. We're going to be watching a short video called Let's Stop Blaming the Victim. And then afterwards, we're going to have a short discussion with our second guest, Miss Audra Luke.
What gives him the right to expect that? I'd really be looking forward to a night out with the girls.
As soon as I saw her, I knew she was my type. She was flaunting herself like you wouldn't believe. Definitely asking for it.
I'd felt great going out in that dress. I saw him, fancied him straight away. He bought me a drink and we started flirting. I thought he was lush. We got close on the dance floor and had a few more drinks.
She said yes to a drink easily enough. She was all over me. She wasn't holding back on those shots.
Then he asked if he could walk me home. I was well chuffed, you know.
She let me walk her home. Back for coffee. You know.
I was really looking forward to spending time with him alone, just the two of us.
I thought she might like it if I took control.
A kiss and a cuddle, yeah, but that was all I'd wanted. I'd never wanted it to go that far. And I told him, but he just wouldn't back off.
She shouldn't have kissed me like that if she hadn't wanted it to go any further.
Why did he have to push it that far?
If she hadn't wanted it, she should have said so sooner. You can't get away with leading a guy on like that. I think you would expect sex at the end of a night like that, wouldn't you?
Rape, sexual assault. Let's stop blaming the victim. Visit stopblame.org.
Welcome back to Making a Difference. Here with me, we have special guest speaker, Audra Luke. How are you, Miss Audra?
I'm fine, thank you.
Great. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
I surely can. I'm an attorney, but I gave up law to work with incarcerated teens, kids in middle school, high school, and nonprofit organizations that are team-based as well, teaching them their rights, because a lot of them don't even know that they have rights, legally or other. And also to teach them life skills and things of that nature, just so that they could become adults who were more in tune with living life responsibly. So, and I'm also an author. I have 2 books Dear Diary Letters from Lana, which
Okay.
deals with my personal story and the story of all the other young girls that I've worked with over the years in, you know, my workshops. And the other one is From Powerless to Empowered, which is a book that actually teaches directors and parents and teachers how to help teen girls deal with their issues through poetry.
Oh, okay.
So, and the last thing I have greenjello.tv, which is an online network for teenagers that has all of the different shows that we've produced for teens just for their viewership. It's entertaining, it's fun, but it's also responsible TV for teenagers. And so we're really excited about that project
Now,
as well.
why the name Green Jello?
Green Jello, I had a dream, okay, by Dr. King Joe. I had a dream that I had a production company and it was called Green Jello. And I don't know, it kind of stuck with me. Not Jello, but Jello, Gello.
Oh, okay, okay.
Right, Green Jello. And .tv, and it really stuck with me, and I felt that that was a spiritual calling, and so I just kind of went with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that video that we just watched? That was pretty powerful, huh?
Oh my, that video. I can relate to that video because, well, I love the video because it shows the perception from the male and from the female.
Yes.
But I like the video because it also tapped into a lot of feelings and personal issues that I had as a young person who kind of went through the same situation.
You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. Well, when I was 6, I lived in Southside Chicago, 63rd and King, and my mom, she worked like 3 jobs, and she was on the graveyard shift. She was young, working her way up, and she always sent me to the babysitter who lived across the way. We were in Brownstone, and she lived across the hall. And what she didn't know at the time was that the babysitter was always drunk. So drinking impacted my life indirectly. She was always drunk, and she had a grandson who was in middle school. Now, I was 6 years old. He's in middle school, and he would always have his friends over, 10, 11 at night. His friends would be there, and they would have their way with me. I mean, sexual molestation where anything from stuffing a sock in my mouth when I'm trying to sleep and just do what they want to do. And I couldn't scream. And if I did, she wouldn't hear it because she was passed out. And that would go on all night, every night. And it ended up taking its toll on me because, like the movie, Blaming the Victim, the short you just showed, I started to blame myself. You know, because I was told if you tell, I'm going to do this, and the threats. And then it got to, well, you didn't tell, so, you know, it must be okay. You know, just working with my mind as a 6-year-old. And I tried to tell my mother about it. But like your guest before me said, when I attempted to tell her, the first reaction was, what did he do? What happened? And it scared and shocked me. And I thought, he was right. I am dirty. I am evil. I am ugly, and I deserve this because look at how my mom's reacted. It is on me because I'm the one that she's angry with.
Who's allowing it to happen.
Exactly.
That's how you feel.
That's exactly how I felt. That's what he told me, and I believed it. And sure enough, I just said, oh, well, he's giving me horsey back rides, and I don't like it. And it started to...
Dirt off the water.
Yeah, exactly. And it came out in interesting ways. You know, I started smoking, 1st grade.
How does that even?
And I didn't start drinking. That was the thing. And the reason I didn't start drinking was because I think when I saw how it affected my life indirectly, it was enough to make me like, that's not something that I'm touching. I'm not messing with that because as a result of her drinking, I'm here.
Right.
And as a 6-year-old, I was kicked out of school. I mean, you name it. And my mom, well, after making me smoke a pack of cigarettes and then throwing up the tobacco that I couldn't smoke, that was her way to teach me about you don't smoke. She shipped me off to my grandmother because she told me, she said, you're not going to live to see the age of 15 because I couldn't tell her what was going on. And so she thought I was just acting out, a bad girl.
Right, but so young.
Exactly, but I had to grow up pretty fast. And so that video that you showed, it touched me because I remember being in a situation where I did blame myself as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know. I mean, now I think that's why I left. Well, after I graduated from law school and got the firms, the offers, I said, no, I'm going to work with teens, in particular teen girls, because I want to show them that there's a way out. And words became mine, writing poetry, and well, after the age of 16, that's how long I carried this.
Right.
And if I didn't do it, I thought, I'm just going to die, because how do I free this? You know, and at 16, I told my mother, and she just said, okay. Because then as a mother, what do you say? She's like, well, I don't even know what to say.
Well, do you have any children of your own?
Yes. I have a daughter, and she's 12 now, going on 13. And when she was born, that's when I hit that moment of, I have to find a way to free this, because I don't want her to have to live with the mental issues that I grew up with because of that. And I was very protective as well, as you might imagine, you know.
I'm sure.
Oh, completely protective. But that's when I wrote the book, Dear Diary, Letters from Lana, because I was working with so many teen girls that at the time were dealing with guys who were drinking in the parties. And, you know, they have the parties where they call them the sex parties, where they go just to drink and have sex. And these kids are 13, 14 years old. And, you know, and just teaching them how to deal with that. And so, I mean, I'm hoping that through this, other people can learn as well.
That's excellent.
Well, hopefully it helps.
Thank you so much for being on the show and shedding some light on this
Thank you.
not so bright situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you know females who drink alcohol are frequently perceived as being more sexually promiscuous than women who do not drink alcohol? Think, don't drink.
Make a difference. Prevent underage drinking.
Mr. Alcohol, how do you feel about yesterday's convention?
Oh, it was great. Really successful.
Mr.
Alcohol, do you know there's a 14-year-old boy with permanent brain damage? You make it seem like everything will be better, but in the end you make it worse. So why should the youth continue voting for you?
What? That's crazy. I changed lives.
Did you know that there is now a teenager handicapped due to drunk driving?
Look, if there is a problem, it's the young people. I don't vote for myself, you know. Am I right or what?
Yeah, you are. Vote no for alcohol. We, the students of Lovejoy High School, disapprove of Mr. Alcohol's message.
For more information, go to www.didyouknowfacts.net.
Did you know youth who drink alcohol commonly engage in sexual intercourse when drinking, have sexual experiences at an earlier age, have sex with multiple partners, experience unexpected pregnancies, and contract sexually transmitted diseases than youth who do not drink? Think, don't drink.
Thank you all so much for joining us as we ventured into the world of sexual assault as it relates to alcohol consumption. I want to thank my two special guests, Ms. Corinne New and Ms. Audra Luke, for helping us better understand the consequences of underage drinking. Please join us again next time on Making a Difference.